Okay, my crochet friends, it is Tuesday, April 2nd, okay? So I have a couple of video clips for you when I was measuring the beds in my house so we can figure out how many squares we would need for a blanket, okay? There's a little bit of a flaw in my plan because I'm showing you how many squares I would need for a king size, a full size, and a twin size bed. Not realizing that I should be doing it by the size of the square, okay? And so it's a little bit flawed, but I filmed these clips like 2 weeks ago before I had been to the dentist and had the dental surgery. So I was feeling pretty good. The antibiotics were working on the infection. So I did a whole thing of putting the squares out on the bed. So go ahead and watch the clip for the king size bed, the full size bed, the twin bed, and then we'll come back and just laugh at my goofiness because, you know, I get excitable when I do certain videos. So just have a good laugh at me and the flaw in my plan. And then we'll come back and we'll have a better system for doing numbers for measurements on the beds so we know how many squares we can make. Although, in my mind, you can't make too many squares because if you make too many, that means you can always make a second blanket or a third blanket, you know? So there's never too many squares. So go ahead, have a little laugh at my video clips, and then we'll come back and we'll sit and talk about measurements, okay? Hello, my dear friends. It is Saturday, and it's time to measure my king size bed to see how many squares we would need if you want to make your blanket as big as a king size bed. So like today's, like every day in the house is laundry day, right? My kids have assigned days. They have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I have Thursday. Friday and Sunday are my husband because he has home clothes and then the dress clothes for work, right? So Saturday is sheets, blankets, towels, curtains, rugs, anything that belongs to the house that needs to be done. So all the sheets have been off my bed. I'm going to put a clean sheet on. We're going to measure it left to right, top to bottom, and then also the thickness of the mattress. And then I'm going to lay some squares out and see how many squares we would need across and up for a king size blanket, okay? Now, here we go. Okay, it would be 76 inches wide. Does that sound about right? That means it is just over 6 feet. 6 feet 4 inches. Okay, I'm going to write that down. I got a piece of paper. I'm going to write it down. 76 inches I got. Okay, now I'm going to measure it from the foot of the bed to the top of the bed. Okay. Okay, so to the top of the bed, I had 80 inches, which is 6 feet 8 inches. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the thickness of my mattress because every mattress is different. They could be 5 inches thick, 7 inches, because that will tell you how much of an overhang you would need on your blankets. Okay, so let's do that one. Guess I didn't actually need to show you that I was measuring everything. So my mattress is 9 inches thick, okay? And left to right is 76 inches. And top to bottom from the head to the foot is 80 inches. So if I wanted my blanket just to sit on the top of my bed, I would make it 76 by 80. Okay, but some people, they like the overhang, so you would add a little bit to the end, a little bit to the top, a little bit to the side, a little bit to this side to make it bigger. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera off, and I've got a whole bunch of squares. I'm going to lay the squares out on the bottom of the bed and see how many we're going to need. Okay, my friends, I'm standing at the bottom of my bed down here, right? I'm also on the squeakiest part of the floor. You hear that? So I'm sorry for all the squeaky floor noise. So I have squares laid out on the bottom of the bed, and let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. We would need 22 across. Now remember, my squares are roughly 3 to 3.5 inches, okay? So I wrote down 22 patchwork squares across. Now I'm gonna line them up from the bottom of the bed to the top, okay? Okay, so also going across the foot of the bed, while I came up with 22, I actually have a little bit of room here, so it's more like 22 1/3. Okay, so from the foot of the bed to where we lay down our heads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I got 24 to the top of the bed. So what's the math on that? What's 22 times 24? And that will tell us how many squares we need. I know somebody's already done the math in their head, but I'm having a day. So 22. Whoop, that says 23. Can't see through my camera. 22 times 24 equals 528. 528 patchwork squares for king size bed. Now, because I am who I am, I also brought up granny squares and corner to corner squares, so I'm gonna lay them out now, okay? Okay, so here is my batch of granny squares. Now this is the batch that doesn't have black, the 2 rounds of black for trimming it. So this is just a granny square without any extra to it. So this will be a guess and an approximation of what I would need to make it for a king size bed. So across the bottom again, left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 19 across. Because you see my granny squares are a little bit bigger than my patchwork squares. Alright, so 19 across, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 from top to bottom. Oh, look, this is just an awesome way to check out these squares when they're all laid out like that. So 20 top to bottom. So for the granny squares, we go 19 times 20 equals 380. You would need 380 granny squares without any border on it, okay? For the king size bed. Okay. Awesome. Now let's lay out my corner to corner squares. Hey, look at that pile. Oh my god. And then sitting here. Seeing them all lined up on the bed like that, it makes me so happy. It really does. Okay, alright, let me move this batch out of the way. Okay, my friends, please forgive me, but this is back-breaking work, I gotta tell you. Alright, so my corner to corner squares, when I'm gonna put these together, I'm stitching them together just like I would my patchwork squares without any border on them, so they will be right up against each other. So this should be a good number for me on how many I would need. Alright, ready? Left to right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 across. Okay. How many would we need going up and down from the foot of the bed to the top, to the head? Whatever I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Wow, that's almost perfectly square. Alright. Look at them. Oh my god, they're so pretty. Okay, and then I wanted to show you what I meant when I was talking about how I plan on putting these together. And what did I say that last top to bottom was 18, right? Okay, so 17 times 18. 17 times 18 is 306. Because my corner to corner squares are coming out bigger than my patchwork and my granny squares. Alright, so this was my plan for my corner to corner squares. I'll do variegated, creamy white, variegated, creamy white, variegated. And then on the next row, it'll be variegated, creamy white, and then variegated. So it'll alternate like that. So I have a whole bunch of these to make. Oh, it looks so pretty. Okay, you ready? There's my corner to corner squares. My granny squares. My patchwork squares. And then there's me, 52 years old, overweight, and out of breath. Okay, so I'm going to actually stop here for now. We're going to do this again on the full-size bed and the twin bed that I have in the house. But I need to cool off a little bit, okay? I'm also hoping to put all these numbers in the description box below so we don't have to do this again. So for those of you with a queen size bed, oh, I think my mom did the queen size. I'll have to check my text messages. Okay, all right, so I will catch up with you guys later once I catch my breath, okay? Okay, my friends, so it is the next day. It is Sunday. So now we're doing the full-size bed, which is also called a double. Okay, so what I did was I actually laid all the squares out. The patchwork, the granny squares, and the corner to corner squares, and I've already counted them up. It was a little easier for me that way. So I'm going to show you my notes, okay? For the width of the bed, left to right, I got 54 inches, okay? And then top to bottom, from the head to the foot, I got 74 inches. So far I've got 16 patchwork squares across, 14 granny squares across, and 12 corner to corner squares across. Ready? See, there we go. I lined them all up. There's patchwork, granny, corner to corner. And I've already counted all of them. Oh, they look fantastic, don't they? So what did I say? 16 patchwork squares across, left to right on the bottom of the bed. 14 granny squares across, and 12 corner to corner squares across. Okay, so now I'm going to put the squares from the head of the bed to the foot of the bed, and we'll count them that way. Okay, so from the foot of the bed to the head of the bed, and remember, it's a full size or a double. Everybody calls it something a little different. We've got 22 patchwork squares going up. We've got 19 granny squares and 17 corner to corner squares. So there we go. We would need 16 by 22, 14 by 19, and 12 by 17. Give me a minute to pick all these squares up and put them away, and I'll do the math on that to let you know how many you need. I look tired today. I would always suggest, my friends, that if you can, to measure your own beds, especially if you're making it for yourself, okay? Because all of our beds can be different measurements depending on who manufactured the mattresses, you know, how old they are, because like my mattress upstairs on my bed is 9 inches thick, but the mattress on my 20-year-old's bed is only 7 inches thick. So that would change how much you would need for an overhang on a mattress. So my numbers are just as a topper, you know, just from one corner of the mattress to the other. So with the full size or double, 54 inches wide by 74 inches tall. That's just the top of the bed. That doesn't account for any overhang, okay? So 16 patchwork squares by 22 comes out to 352 squares. Granny squares, 14 by 19 comes out to 266. Corner to corner squares is 12 by 17, so it came out to 204. So, and then you also have to take into account how big you're making your squares. My squares are 3.5 inches, 4 1/4 inches, and 4.5 inches. So, you know, you would take okay, let's say how wide the bed is. The bed is 54 inches wide, and my squares for the patchwork squares are 3.5 inches. You would take 54 and divide it by 3.5. So, what does a handy dandy calculator say for that? And see if I'm even close. Okay, 54 inches divided by 3.5, which means 3.5, and I came up with 15.4. I would need 15.4 squares to go from the left side to the right side, and I came up with 16. So yeah, my math is right. Awesome. If you guys need any help with the math, just send me your numbers and I'll do the math for you. Math was always my favorite subject in school way back in the day. I have a thing for numbers. So that's why there's so much information in my videos. So that is for the full or double-sized bed. So I've got one more bed to do for you, and that is the twin, or sometimes it's called a single. But this is back-breaking work. Seriously. My 20-year-old, their full-size bed is very low to the floor, so I have to do a lot of bending over. My back is screaming at me right now. Yeah, Mr. Arlo, right? So I need to take some ibuprofen, put the heating pad on my back, and hopefully later on today, because it's still early in the day, it's not even quite 1 o'clock. Hopefully later on in the day I can get the twin size done, and then I'll find my mom's measurements for the queen size, okay? So it's just, I want to, the purpose of this is to make sure that you guys don't make too many squares or not make enough. But remember, we all crochet differently. Some of us crochet bigger. So if your squares are coming out 5 inches, I would take 54 and divide it by 5 to see how many squares you would need going across, okay? Once you get your number going across, you multiply it by your number going up, and it tells you how many you need all together. Right. All right, so enough talking. I will catch you guys later. Okay, I have to go eat. I haven't eaten yet today. Ah, that's my man. He follows me everywhere. Look at him. Alright, I'll catch up with you guys later. Okay, friends, let's get some measurements for a single bed, or it's often called a twin bed. And this is in my youngest room. My 17 and 19-year-old share a room, so of course we've got 2 twin beds. Okay, you ready? Alright, so the measurements that I got for this bed with my tape measure is that it is 39 inches wide. And then from the foot to the head, I've got 76 inches, which is very similar to one of the measurements on a king-size bed. So, patchwork squares going left to right, I've got 11. Let's see. Granny squares from left to right, I've got 10. And then corner to corner, left to right, I've got 9. And since I already have numbers for 76 inches from the king-size bed, I know how many it would take going in the other direction. So thankfully I don't have to lay these out. But, oh, don't they look awesome? Oh, it's going to be so pretty. Okay, so let's take a look at our notes. We would need 11 patchwork squares left to right. We would need 22 top to bottom. So that gives us a total of 242 squares. For granny squares, I have 10 across, 19 top to bottom. So you need 190 granny squares. Corner to corner squares, 9 left to right, 17 top to bottom, so you need a total of 153. Now remember, with my granny squares, while they're like 4 1/4 inches, I am going to be putting a black border on my granny squares, which would make it come out a little bigger. It's probably closer to 5 inches, so I would need less, but this is still a good number to work with. So that is for the single or twin size bed. It came up to 39 inches wide by 76 inches tall. And the mattress, all of our mattresses are all different depths. The mattresses for the twins are 8 inches deep. So, how are we liking those numbers so far, right? So let me get the queen size numbers and I will get back to you. Okay, so you see what I did there in those clips, my friends. I based my number of squares on how big my squares are and not how big your squares are. Okay, so what you have to do is the number for the inches for how wide your bed is. If it's 39 inches, 60 inches, 70 inches, 80 inches, you just divide that by how big your squares are. If your squares are 3 inches, you divide 76 by 3. If your squares are 3 1/4 inches, then it'd be 3.25. If they're 3 1/2, it's 3.5. 3 3/4 is 3.75. And then there's 4 inches and 5 inches. So measure your squares, see how big your squares are wide, okay, and then divide that by how wide the bed is, and it should give you a number. And then the same thing for going from the head of the bed to the foot of the bed. If it's 80 inches, divide 80 inches by 3 for 3-inch squares, 3.25 for 3 1/4 inch squares, 3.5 for 3 1/2 inch squares. You get where I'm going with this? And then when you figure out if you've got 10 squares across and 12 squares up, you multiply 10 by 12 and it tells you you need 120 squares for your project. Okay, so math, right? So I have pages and pages and pages of notes. So what I think I should do is I think I should type this all up and put it in a PDF in a file so you guys can have it, because I went to the internet. a California King. I think it's like the biggest bed out there. It's 72 inches wide by 84 inches tall. Now that's a pretty big bed, right? And then they have a king size listed as 76 inches by 80. So I had measured my king size bed, and my bed came out to, is it the same as what the internet says? Hold on. Yeah, my bed is 76 by 80, okay? A queen size bed is 60 inches wide by 80 inches tall. A full size bed, or a double. Some people call it a full, some people call it a double. The internet says that it's 53 by 75 and a half. My full size came in at 54 by 74. So the numbers, some people round the numbers up a little bit, but they were close enough. So a twin size bed or a single, I've got 38 inches by 75. And I also have a number for crib size blankets. Cribs are 27 inches wide by 52 inches tall. Okay. And then there's my blanket here. All right. My blanket is 12 squares wide by 11 squares tall. Right. So it's 132 squares. I did put a border on my blanket. My border is about 6 inches or 3 inches on one side, 3 on the other. So my blanket here came out to be 39 by 35 without the border, and 45 inches by 41 inches with the border. Okay. And this blanket is perfect for when I'm sitting on the couch with my husband. It'll cover both of our feet, both sets of feet, but it's not tall enough for him at all. But it is for me. I just sit on the couch and curl up with it, you know. So, yeah. I measured the beds with my squares on how big my squares are. So, my patchwork squares are 3.5 inches wide by, no, 3.25. Damn it. I always seem to forget that. Right, okay. So my patchwork squares are 3.5 inches wide by 3.25 inches tall. My granny squares are 4.25 inches. And since they're completely square, it's wide and tall. 4.25. When I put the 2 round of black on there for the border, it brought my square up, my granny square up to 5 inches. Okay. My corner to corner squares are 4.5 inches. So I did all my numbers based on 3.5 for 3.5, 4.25 for 4.25, 4.5 for 4.5, and then 5 inches. So my plan was to make a Patchwork Squares blanket for a full size bed. That tells me I need 15.4 squares going across. 15.4 squares across, and then 21.4 squares up and down. So you can't do 15.4 squares. So I rounded it up to 16, and I took the 21.4 and rounded it up to 22. I would need 352 patchwork squares just for the top of a full-size bed. That's not including any overhang, and I don't know if I want the squares to act as the overhang or the border. Okay. So if I did my granny squares at 4.25 inches, I would need 266 squares, and my corner to corner squares, I would need 204. All right. If you guys need help with any of this, just let me know the measurements of your bed or the measurements of the blanket that you want to make. And then let me know what size your squares are. And maybe between the two of us, we can figure out how many squares you need to be making. Because I do get this comment a lot down in the comment section. I get questions on how many squares do you need? It actually all depends on what size blanket that you want to make, and then you have to figure out how big your squares are and then do a little bit of math. But if math is not your strong suit, just go ahead and throw them to me in the comments, and I'll help you figure it out. Okay, so that's it for today's video. I gotta tell you, I really did love, like, I was just watching my footage so I can do edits. I really love the squares laid out on the bed. I am going to have to just do some playing around with them because it looks so pretty when they're on the bed, and it just reminds me of what I'm working towards. You know, it gives me a little bit of an idea of what the end goal is. I'm loving the colors of the squares, and I love making the squares themselves. So the overhead light is on. It's a very gray and rainy day out today, so you know, a little washed out. But so I hope you guys are doing well. Okay, crochet math is not easy. It can be fun if you don't mind if it's just an approximation or a guess, you know, and it's your best guess. You know, but if you're very precise, it might not be the funnest thing in the world, but I like it. Okay, all right, yeah, so there are measurements for our blankets. Okay, anything else? No. Okay, so we're good. I need to go take a picture for a thumbnail, so I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.